The Paper Mario series is known for its colorful cast of characters, and a big reason why is the partners. Characters that journey the world alongside you. You get to know them, fight with them, and watch them grow. But there's one partner that stands apart from the rest. One character that has made a bigger impact than any other partner in the series. Who is this partner? Hello, it is me, Flurry.
Wrong!
His name is Bobby. Unlike the other partners in the series, Bobby's design is nothing special. He's merely a Bob-omb without a fuse. He has no hat, no hair, not even a unique color. He's incredibly plain. But despite this, he is extremely significant. And to explain why, we must look at his journey with Mario. When you meet Bobby, you learn that he has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything about himself or where he belongs, so he's traveling the kingdom to try to regain his memories. Bobby immediately joins your party and begins tagging along on your journey. You get to witness Bobby learn about stuff you and Olivia already know. You see the unique reactions of an individual that is completely unaware of the dangerous place that the world has become.
Gee willikers! Is that a flying saucer?
No, Bobby, that is not a flying saucer.
Aside from that, he kinda just sticks around until his story is over. But here's the thing, Bobby is not helpful. In fact, his tagging along actually makes things difficult. Bobby gets separated, Bobby falls off a bridge, Bobby gets separated again, and each time Mario has to halt his progress to find him. He's rarely helpful in battles, he doesn't help at all in the Water Elemental Shrine, and he doesn't even contribute to boss battles. This is completely antithetical to what partners are supposed to be. Yet despite all this, he makes an impact. Bobby may not be helpful, but he stands out. He's fully integrated into the plot of the Autumn Mountain chapter. He shares many moments with you. He may be a pain to have to take care of, but he's not just an ability to use every once in a while. In fact, he doesn't even have any special abilities. Bobby is actively a part of your journey, and he becomes a true friend to Mario and Olivia. Think about partners like Flurry, Cooper, Watt, etc. Story-wise, they don't really matter much. They mostly exist for their abilities to be utilized in puzzles and battles. This doesn't make them bad partners, of course not. They just end up not feeling very significant. After saving Autumn Mountain and destroying the blue streamer, Bobby gets his memories back. With his memories back, his goal has been fulfilled and he doesn't need to travel with Mario anymore. But Olivia tells him he doesn't have to leave. Bobby wasn't just a guy that needed to be helped. He was a friend, and he'd stick with Mario till the end. And speaking of the end, Olivia is trapped under a rock. A big rock, a seemingly indestructible rock. And Bobby knows that there is only one way he can save Olivia. By setting sail to retrieve something from the luxury cruise ship, the Princess Peach. Throughout our time traveling with Bobby, we've seen him act pretty lazy and avoid dangerous situations. Without a fuse, Bobby is basically useless. A dud, if you will. This could be why he doesn't do much. He may be afraid, perhaps out of powerlessness. Bobby is vulnerable and without power, so he avoids danger at all costs. But now his friend is the one in danger, and he's the only one that can help. Bobby sets aside his fear and goes with Mario to save the day. And he's absolutely terrified. The Princess Peach is where Bobby lost his fuse in the first place, while fighting to protect the ship with his friends. Maybe part of his fear comes from his failure to protect them during the incident. Anyway, after finishing the mission with Mario, you retrieve a box, and Bobby makes the biggest impact of all. Inside the box is a fuse, which he uses to sacrifice himself to destroy the rock. Bobby dies from this. We don't know exactly why. In most other games, Bob-ombs survive their explosions, or at least are implied to. Classic Paper Mario, the Mario and Luigi games, Mario Party, and even Mario Golf indicate that they can explode and survive. The theory I believe is that Bobby's explosion was so big, so incredibly massive, that he had to put his whole life into it. We've never seen an explosion that big or destructive from such a small Bob-omb. This is the size explosion theory, and I'll touch back on this later in the video. But whatever the case, Bobby put his life into the explosion, sacrificing himself to save Olivia. I think now would be an appropriate time to mention that Bobby's name isn't Bobby, it's Bob-omb. His best friend was also named Bob-omb, and it's likely that all of his Bob-omb were named Bob-omb as well. In the game's final stretch, you end up meeting a bunch of near-identical Bob-ombs as well. Bobby is significant because he is insignificant. And that's the entire point. A character doesn't need a fancy design, useful ability, or even a name to stand out. Bobby could have been anyone. A Koopa Troopa, a Spike, a Toad. No matter how generic, every character is an individual with their own lives, personalities, and motivations. The Origami King showed that anyone can be a memorable character, and anyone can make an impact. This theme was actually pretty prominent across the other Mario RPGs of the time. Minion Quest's entire plot revolves around a random, insignificant Goomba rallying all of the minions together to save Bowser. This one Goomba that Mario wrangles at the beginning of Superstar Saga becomes Captain Goomba and makes a difference. It's shown in Minion Quest and Bowser Jr.'s journey that the actions of Captain Goomba even changed the Koopalings. A random Goomba managed to change the Koopalings. Paper Mario Color Splash shows some of the more casual looks into the lives of the minions, and we even get a deep dive into the emotions of a Shy Guy who opens up to us on the Sunset Express. Every single NPC is an individual, and Bobby is the perfect example. As I mentioned earlier, at the end of the game we meet a bunch of Bob-ombs. Olivia gets confused thinking they're all Bobby. Up to this point, Bobby is the only Bob-omb that she's ever seen, and this is probably why Olivia couldn't get his name right in the first place. Bob-omb doesn't really sound like a name, so it would make sense why she'd come up with one that's easier to remember. Olivia never sees Bobby as one of a species. She sees him as an individual, a friend. Bobby was never a random NPC to Olivia, which makes his story even more powerful. As a quick side note, the scene is actually a bit different in the original Japanese version. In both versions, the Bob-omb that Olivia talks with suggests that she has confused him for someone else. In the English version, the focus is on Bob-ombs making an impact with their lives. All any of us can hope for is to make an impact, ma'am. But the Japanese version instead focuses on Olivia's confusion, and it ends with the bomb saying, "But I seem to remember you. I don't know why." Now, I translated this using Deep L, so I don't know exactly how accurate the translation is, but regardless, this Bob-omb somehow remembers Olivia. This could imply a few things, but perhaps the souls of dead Bob-ombs make their way to factories to enter the bodies of newly made Bob-ombs. They likely wouldn't remember their past lives, at least not fully, but they'd get to live on as a new person. This bit of lore might apply to other factory-made minions like Chain Chomps and Bullet Bills, so that's kinda cool. Furthermore, instead of saying Bob-ombs are easily replaced, the bomb in Japanese just says that all Bob-ombs are the same, which, yeah, Bowser's Bob-ombs all look the same, have the same purpose, and even the same name. Shout out to this YouTube user whose footage I used to get the Japanese dialogue. His reaction is pretty awesome. Anyway, back to the video. Aside from Mario, Bobby was Olivia's only friend. Throughout the journey so far, she'd already gone through so much. But Bobby was always there beside her. To come to the reality that her friend was gone, and specifically just so she could live, it crushed her. And it affected Mario pretty badly too. Mario lost a great friend, and he had to watch Olivia suffer from the loss as well. We don't normally see Mario get this emotional. The goal in a Bob-omb's life is to make an impact, and Bob-omb certainly did, not just on Mario and Olivia, but all of us. Even for the people who found him annoying or thought his story was written poorly, he still left some sort of an impression on us. Bobby wasn't a perfect character. I understand why a handful of people didn't like him. There was a lot about him that could have been done better, and I get why even the concept of playing up a generic minion might leave a bad taste in some people's mouths. But in my opinion, that doesn't lessen who he is or what he stands for. Bobby isn't the name of Bob-omb. Bobby is the name of a true friend. Anyone can be a Bobby. While the developers have shown that they can make fantastic characters out of the most generic of concepts, I do hope we go back to the unique characters of the classic Paper Mario games. Their role in gameplay was much better, and they had cool, memorable designs as well. But those unique characters would be so much better if they picked up hints from Bobby. Imagine how much more impactful partners would be if they were integrated into the plot as much as Bobby was. If those partners were more than just a tool to have an introduction and then fall back to being a mere ability. The Thousand Year Door remake looks like its partners will have much better reactions and that they'll now show up in certain cutscenes, which is a good step in the right direction. I've only played the first chapter so far, but they already have so much more life than they did in the original. But in the future, I want partners to be more than that. I want them to be Bobbies that share every step of the way with you. Not all of them have to be as involved as Bobby was. Professor Toad and Kamek were able to add a lot to the Origami King without being as crucial to the plot. The connections formed within the game felt very genuine, in my opinion. It always felt that, even in the darkest corners of the world, there was always someone there to help. Whether it be a random Toad, or one of your greatest enemies, we were all in it together. The future of Paper Mario looks bright. I don't know what's coming next, I just know that one insignificant minion was able to make an impact, and he may have paved the way for more impacts to come. Thank you for everything, Bob-omb. Now before I end this video, I want to talk about the nature of Bob-ombs and why Bobby's explosion killed him. Bobby's explosion killing him is pretty confusing to a lot of people. This has led to a lot of theories as to why he dies. One theory I heard a lot around the launch of the game is the idea that there are two types of Bob-ombs, factory-made and organic. This is very obviously false. Bob-ombs don't have any flesh or anything like that. But a similar idea would be that some Bob-ombs are delivered by storks, start as kids, and grow up into adults. The Thousand Year Door does have Bub, the one instance of a child bomb, so the idea of some bombs being delivered by storks doesn't seem too far-fetched. But would Bub's body grow larger as he gets older, or will his body always be tiny? Who knows? One theory I've seen recently is that some Bob-ombs are custom-made. Non-standard bombs would be custom-created apart from the mass-produced factory ones. I think this is unlikely, though. It's more likely that Bob-ombs can just accessorize. Bob-ombs can be produced in different sizes, and even Bowser produces Bob-ombs in multiple colors sometimes. According to this theory, Bombette would be a custom-made Bob-omb, but the evidence suggests that she's a standard factory Bob-omb. The Bob-ombs you fight in the Koopa Bros fortress are from the same group as Bombette. They all used to live in this fortress before the Koopa Bros took over, and they were forced to work for the Koopa Bros. Bombette and her friends rebelled against the Koopa Bros, which is why they're thrown in prison. The Bob-ombs that didn't rebel are obviously just standard factory-made Bob-ombs, so Bombette's different appearance was likely self-inflicted, not by some designer. So while it's still possible that there could be custom-made Bob-omb crafters, we've never seen any evidence of that. We only have evidence for factory-made and potentially stork-delivered Bob-ombs. There is Punchinello, but he seems to make us just standard Bob-ombs. But, however Bob-ombs are born, as I brought up earlier, regular factory Bob-ombs don't die when they explode! If the Origami King developers truly intended for standard explosions to end in death, then it was an attempted retcon that will surely be undone by future games if it hasn't been undone already. One last theory I've heard about Bobby's death is that it's the fuse that he uses that kills him. While we don't really know why he was given a unique fuse in this scene, this is pretty nonsensical in my opinion. The fuse is just what ignites the bomb. It may change the moment or condition of the explosion, but it wouldn't change the nature of the explosion. And furthermore, the fuse that he uses is supposed to look like the fuses that Bob-ombs have been using in basically every series other than Paper Mario. And again, these Bob-ombs don't die from explosions! The size explosion theory that I mentioned earlier makes the most sense. The boulder that crushes Olivia is massive, solid, and has no cracks. For a standard Bob-omb to obliterate that, it would have required a lot of energy. This is the only sensible theory that I've heard, and it's the only theory that works with the other games that clearly show that Bob-ombs can explode without dying. Anyway, I say all of this to lead up to a different point. During the Origami King, Bob-ombs are stated to live short lives. This seems to contradict the Thousand-Year Door, where bombs like Bobbery have clearly lived for a long time. But is it really that Bob-ombs live short lives, or is it that Bob-ombs just aren't very durable? Hear me out. Bobby lost his fuse simply from being slapped by a Gooper Blooper. Without his fuse, he cannot protect himself, leaving him very vulnerable and weak. This is a bit of speculation, but it seems like fuses aren't the only body part that Bob-ombs can lose. Sailors like Bobbery and Papatch have non-standard keys on their backs. These two are both sailors though. I'd imagine that if their bodies got damaged while out at sea, they wouldn't have spare parts to repair themselves with, leaving them to use whatever they have with them. For Papatch, it was bones and string. For Bobbery, it was an old steering wheel. Not to mention, Bobbery's fuse is also non-standard, so he might have had an original fuse that he had to replace too. If Bob-ombs have to replace their own parts, this paints a picture of how rough life can be for a Bob-omb. Despite being made of metal, some Bob-ombs wear shoes, perhaps to protect their bodies from wear and tear? Bowser's Bob-ombs march straight into battle with no protection, making it more likely that they die younger. It wasn't until a few weeks ago that I even realized any of this, but I think it's actually pretty coherent and consistent. Depending on the lifestyle of the Bob-omb, they may live very short lives. Some that regularly face dangers have to have a lot of tenacity to survive the damage their bodies may face. There's a bomb in Podley's place that describes his constant exploding as wild, implying it may be reckless to go around exploding all the time. Some Bob-ombs live their whole lives working for Bowser. Others face the terrors of the ocean as sailors. And some even live long, peaceful lives that people may describe as organic. All of this is just to show that the implications made in the Origami King make a lot more sense within a grander context. And just a reminder, while the English version of the airship scene in Origami King goes on about Bob-ombs being easily replaced, the Japanese version instead talks about how Bowser's Bob-ombs are all the same. I thought about making a different video specifically to go over this, but I thought it would make sense to squeeze it into this one, as the nature of Bob-ombs is definitely thematically relevant, even if it isn't related to the rest of the video. But yeah, that's it. Oh wait! Important thing to note. Most people don't seem to know about this at all, but in Breezy Tunnel, if you hit your hammer against this post 4 times, and listen closely, you'll hear...
You've just been whopped by the King Bob-omb. Share this with all your friends to give each of them a total whopping.
No, Bobby, that is not a flying saucer.